All content in this video, including but not limited to text, graphics, images, audio, and video, is the property of Toward Health and is protected by international copyright laws. Unauthorized distribution, reproduction, modification, or use of this content without prior written permission from Toward Health is strictly prohibited. For permissions, please contact us at contact@drtro.com.
Hi, everybody. I am just absolutely honored to have everybody here today, this morning, waking up early on a summer morning to join us for this webinar that we're doing. There's been an ongoing discussion in the practice about what other tools we can develop in people to help them keep their lifestyle going. And Amy and I have reflected on, what do we do? What tools are available to people who know about nutrition, understand metabolic health, but need help putting it into practice? So how do you go from information to execution? And I recently went on an amazing cruise. It was actually a low carb cruise. I have no affiliation with them, everybody, but and there was a hot debate. Ben Bickman was there, Maria Emmerichs, Dr. Lucia Aronica, Dr. Lenskis, and there was a debate going um, on what's needed to move the needle. And the debate was between, do we need to cultivate a stronger mindset? Do we need to, or do we need to, cultivate a stronger sense of personal accountability? And there was a huge debate, and, it was split 50-50. People felt like they needed 50% of people felt like they needed more tools, more resources, more action items to put their knowledge into use. They needed more understanding of the external lies and the internal lies we sort of tell ourselves. And then there was 50% of people who said, no, we need to expand on our ownership. We need to expand on our responsibility. And each of those, it was a raging debate. And so I'm hoping as we go through these lectures today, you can add to each side of you that maybe holds one of those truths, because I think all of us hold one of those truths. We need more information, more tools, right? And more resources and insight to decipher some of the lies we've been told and some of the lies that we tell ourselves. And so I think some of the lectures you're going to get today are going to discuss those, inner voices and what you can do about them. And I hope that we start to look at weight loss and permanent weight loss as a paradigm that's not about budgeting, that's not about bootstrapping, that's not about starving, right? But it's actually self-discovery. And in my experience in the past 10 years in this field of obesity medicine, I've read the textbooks, I've read the research. I hope that the field of obesity medicine shifts from the calories model to a model that embraces mental health, food addiction, and resiliency. Because I think that model is more appropriate, and I think that it's more helpful. And so that's my hope for you today, is to get different viewpoints, different tools, different resources, and hear it from truly experts. We're going to cover today everything from mental health. We're going to talk about sleep. Amy Igus is going to be talking about her journey. I'm going to be discussing immediate recovery and moment zero. Dr. Brian Lensis is going to talk about those strongholds, those lies that sort of have been rooted since childhood. Coach Bronson is going to talk about sort of the commitment and the mindset needed. And then we'll have a discussion with Kiyoshi Thomas Clifford about his approach and what to expect on your journey. His F method is 6 Fs. So with that said, I cannot wait to get started with here today with Tory Jones's lecture. If you, I've had the past 7 years a chance to really get to know Tory Jones. Has it been 7 years? Maybe 6 years?
Yes,
Um,
5 or 6, yeah.
5 or 6. She's a mental health counselor specializing in obesity, binge eating, food addiction. She uses cognitive behavioral therapy, person-centered therapy, advanced training in somatic experiencing. And one of the things that I know personally from Tori working right here in this office, and now she's off at a different mental health clinic, but she knows how to create a safe space to help her clients grow and sort of discover a little bit more about themselves without judgment. And that's something I've personally felt. So I'm honored to have Tori here today. I felt that sort of judgment-free uh, counseling, I think, in a non-professional setting, as a friend. But I refer patients to her frequently, and I'm just excited that she's here to talk about how to manage stress.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here too, and it's so good to see you guys. Um, so yeah, before we get started, there are going to be points where I'm going to be asking for input and feedback. So if you're comfortable, please type into the chat, any feedback that you have. At the end, we'll do questions. Um, So let's get started. Like Tro said, I am Tory Jones. I am a mental health counselor in the state of New York. For this lecture, this is just for education. It's not individualized mental health advice. So if you have a counselor, you can take these, ideas to them, go over them with them, and any questions, my contact will be at the end of my slideshow, or you can ask anything here in the chat. So before we dive into all of the meat of the lecture, I want to kind of just get us situated in the now. So before we get started, let's do some grounding, some orienting, and just kind of be here. So part of this, I hope that you came comfortable, especially early on a Saturday morning, earlier for some than others, depending on what time zone you're in. So just notice right now what things are making you comfortable. For me, I have a drink here that is comforting to me, it's soothing. I have a pillow behind my back, which is comfortable. I can hear through my headphones a wind chime outside. There's a candle burning, which is giving a pleasant sense. Um, Notice how you're sitting. Are you sitting in a chair? Are you lying down on a bed? Are your feet on the floor? Are they crossed? Are you crisscross applesauce? What feels comfortable and good right now? And in noticing that comfort, is there anywhere that doesn't feel comfortable? Anywhere that has some discomfort that might want to shift or move and get more comfortable in this moment? Just thinking about that. If something changed, what needed to change to cause that comfort? What was causing that discomfort? Okay. And now that we've kind of settled in that internal and that external, um, anything else that needs to change, anything that's shifting internally, um, anything that is calling your attention right now. And just hold on to that idea of comfort. We're going to come back to that a little bit later on. But just kind of feel into that comfort and allow that to be. So I am just going to bring up the slideshow now. Bear with me. I know how to do this. Screen share. Here we go. Okay. So today we are going to be talking about stress and self-care. Um, so my definition of stress is something that knocks us out of homeostasis, right? Our brain and our body always want to be balanced, and stress is something that knocks us out of that balance. And there are all different types of stress. The American Institute of Stress um, has a bunch of different definitions that we're going to kind of go through now because we're going to use some of these terms as we go through the lecture. So acute stress is kind of what we think about when we think about like a stressor, right? It's that fight or flight, that survival instinct that comes out. So something like a car accident, something like sudden bad news. It's something that hits us fast and throws us into survival mode. It takes about 90 minutes for the metabolism to return to normal once this response is over. So this is like quick, it hits, and then the body brings itself back into that homeostasis, that evenness. Chronic stress are things that we deal with on a daily basis for long periods of times. So things like bills, family, jobs. This is the stress that we try to put in the back of our mind that we don't really pay attention to. Um, and this can kind of be one of the more insidious forms of stress, right? Because we just think it's normal. We push through, we let it happen. Um, and this is the stress that's really going to keep like those cortisol levels high, that stress hormone in the brain. And it's really going to start to affect your health, your body, your immune system, your metabolism, your sleep habits. So many things are affected by this chronic stress. So this is the one that, we really want to kind of be aware of and not just put out of our mind and let it sit. Um, Not to the point where it's like overwhelming, where we can't focus through it, but finding those tools to deal with it and to really work through it and handle it in a healthy way. Now let's look at the two different definitions of stress. So there's eustress, which is good stress, right? Like even good things can be stressful. So things like marriage, promotion, having baby, expanding family, winning money or a contest, developing new friendships, graduations, anything that is positive but still kind of knocks us out of balance, right? Even positive things can upset that balance that our mind and our body need. And then we have distress, which is the stress that we know, right? That's the stress that we feel negatively. So things like divorce, being punished, getting an injury, negative feelings like depression or anxiety, financial stress, work difficulties, um, maybe problems within the friend group or within the relationships, um, anything that is causing us sadness and um, negative feelings and energy, that's going to be that distress, right? Because that really knocks us out of balance. We can really feel that one. And I'm seeing in chat from Tro, yeah, vacation, definitely. That is a big, it's a positive thing, but it's stressful, especially if you're traveling with loved ones, with family. Trying to balance everything that you're doing can be really, really stressful. So just being aware of what the body is doing and what the mind is doing when you're in those moments is super important. We go. Okay. So, if you guys are comfortable, what are some signs that you notice when you're stressed? If you want to throw that in the chat, what are some things that you notice either in your mind or your body when you're feeling those feelings of stress? I'm seeing constantly hungry, shallow breathing, digestive issues, insomnia, impatience, good one. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that we notice. Heart racing, um, people around me tell me I have stress. Yeah, irritability, neck and shoulders hurt. Yeah, that's a big one too. Tension in the neck and chest, crabby, right? We lose some of our capacity to deal with things when we're feeling stressed because our capacity is being used to manage that stress. Racing heart rate, yeah. So breathing changes, yeah. So we're all noticing sweating, feel it in my gut, inflammatory flares, yeah. So we're noticing these signs of stress, right? These are things that come to mind pretty easily. So we're aware that we have stress. Um, so here we go. So what are some signs of stress, right? So these are some of them that we hit, right? Tension in the body, sleep disturbances, increased hunger, feeling run down or sick, headaches, teeth grinding. And then we've got that emotional and mental, right? So that short temper, difficulty concentrating, sometimes memory fog. Sometimes it can be hard to come up when you know you're in like here, like I'm a little stressed. I'm having trouble finding my words. So sometimes that memory fog can come in. Um, Sometimes you can have mood swings, right? Going from happy to angry to sad to, you know, hopelessness. And then feeling overwhelmed, right? So when our capacity is at full, when we don't have that ability to put into any more effort into what we're doing, we feel overwhelmed. We get that feeling of just, I can't take on anymore. One of my favorite sayings that I've kind of borrowed from the chronic pain community is, "I'm out of spoons." So having spoons is a way to describe capacity. So pretend that these are spoons because I don't have spoons with me. I have pens and pencils. Um, so pretend that these six, let's do seven pens are the energy and capacity that you have in a day to manage everything that you need to do. So it takes one spoon to get up in the morning, one spoon to get ready for work, one spoon to make it to work, say one spoon to do work, one spoon to get home from work, and then you have two spoons left over to do whatever you need to after work. So that is going to be eating if you need to, showering, playing with your kids, spending time with loved ones, getting ready for bed and getting to sleep. So you have two spoons left over for that. But if you're stressed, right, you get bad news at work. So you use that one normal spoon to get to work, to get dressed for work, the one spoon to get to work. And then instead of just one spoon for doing work, it takes four spoons. Like you get bad news and you're stressed. So you only have one spoon left over to get home from work. And now you have no capacity left when you get home to spend that time with loved ones, to take that shower, to get ready for bed, to do those things that you want to do. So that's where that short temper comes in. Maybe some mood swings, maybe like sleep disturbances, like you can't fall asleep because that capacity is at max. Now, if you've got chronic stress, say you've got a chronically ill family member, you're going to start at less spoons because your spoons are being used right now to care for that family member. So, say you only have 4 spoons to get through the day. So, it takes one to get up, one to make it to work, one for work, one to get home from work, and you're out. And then what if you get that bad news at work? Then you're borrowing spoons from the next day to make it through just so you can get home from work. So stress takes away our capacity. So being aware of where that stress comes in will really help us manage it and put tools into place to handle when that stress is feeling overwhelming. Okay. So let's talk about resiliency. So, resiliency is the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress, such as family and relationship problems, serious health problems, or workplace and financial stressors. So, this is your ability to come back to that homeostasis, to that balance. It is really, really hard to if you're like that capacity is low to come back to that middle place. So resiliency is you can think of it as like adding more spoons or making those spoons um a higher currency. Like you have more um they could be used, one spoon can be used for more things. So resiliency does not mean that you're never going to feel stress. Resiliency is just that ability to push back against that stress, to come back to that center, um, and bounce back from whatever is trying to knock you down. So think about like a young tree, if it gets like pushed over or knocked by something, it's able to come back to that center because it has that flexibility, that resiliency. Um, so trying to get to that place where you're like that tree where you can come back to that middle ground. And the best way to build resiliency is through self-care. Um, so self-care is the act of caring for yourself, both in big and small ways. And that helps you maintain your not only your physical well-being, but also your mental well-being. Self-care has become kind of this buzzword, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm going to have a self-care day and, eat whatever I want and do whatever I want. And, it kind of has brought on some negative connotations about maybe being selfish or, being frivolous. But it's not. Self-care is not selfish. It's not a waste of time. It's not overindulging. It is incredibly important. um, it can be kind of daunting to kind of jump into self-care, especially if it's something that you don't do often. So an easy way to kind of look at self-care is looking at the different areas of self-care. Uh, so you can break this down any way that you'd like, but this is the way that I kind of like, and you'll see in other publications. You'll see self-care plans out there. Um, so the areas of self-care that we're going to talk about today are going to be physical, emotional, social, professional or educational if you're a student, and spiritual or religious. So some activities and some things that you do for yourself are going to fall into multiple categories. Nothing has to fit perfectly into one category, and it's not going to, because there's a lot that goes into self-care that spans multiple areas, and those dynamic activities are the things that we kind of want to lean into a lot of times. So let's look first at the physical self-care. So just hearing that term, physical self-care, what comes to mind? If you're comfortable dropping that to chat, like what feels good to you to take care of yourself physically? Ooh, stretching exercise, yeah. A hot bath, yep. Yeah, weightlifting, yeah. Going for a walk with the dog, running fast, nourishing my body, eating whole foods. Yes, time in nature, eating healthy exercise. Ooh, praying. Yeah. Sleep, yeah, brushing teeth. Yeah, that's one that we don't really think about sometimes, right? Is taking care of our physical body, doing things like brushing our teeth, taking a shower, dancing, cold plunge, practicing breathing, listening to music, yeah, sauna. So things that are taking care of our physical body. Music, playing with the dog, yeah. So looking at those those physical things that we do, a pedicure, yeah. Um, how does that make you feel? Like thinking about those physical things that we do, some, daily basis things, but some special things like getting that pedicure, going to the sauna. Um, what does that do to your stress level? Right? It's going to start to bring that stress level down and keep you into that balance. It's going to increase that capacity. Yeah, the gym makes me an amusing human. Yep. Reminds me that I'm worth taking care of. Yes, very much so. Some energize, right? Gives you that capacity, that energy. So these are things that make us feel good. So yeah, so exercising, maintaining hygiene, keeping our personal space tidy, right? Sometimes we don't think about that. Like for me personally, if I have clutter, like it stresses me out. Like my brain cannot move past that clutter. Having good sleep hygiene, right? So making sure that our room is dark and cool, maybe a sound machine or a fan to block out some of those external noises. Um, making sure that you're not drinking caffeine too late in the day, that your bed is comfortable. Um, for our community, staying low carb and following the lifestyle that you've committed to, dressing in clothes that make you feel good about yourself, right? These are all important physical things. Okay, the next one that we're gonna hit is gonna be emotional self-care. So when I say emotional self-care, what comes to mind for you guys? Like, what are things that you do to take care of yourself emotionally? This one can be a little harder, so if you're a little stuck, that's okay. Okay, so going to the gym, yeah. Journaling, yes, praying, definitely. Calling my sister, beautiful. Staying away from negative people, yeah, positive self-talk. Turn off the news, yes. Looking at things that we can take out, not just add, perfect. Meditation, quiet time, meditation, yeah. Letting myself feel, telling myself it's okay to show emotion. Therapy, yes. Time with friends, yeah. Being with my kids, yeah. So these are all important emotional parts of self-care. Drawing, yeah, going to the beach, perfect. Yeah, so participating in hobbies you enjoy, right? Things that make you feel happy. Consuming media you enjoy. So maybe avoiding some of those negative things that we're seeing out there. And taking a media or social media break when needed. There are a lot of things going on in our greater world that can be overwhelming. And taking a step back, that is completely acceptable. Having firm boundaries with your smartphones. It is so easy when our phones are on us all the time, these little pocket computers, that we can look up anything at any point and see whatever we want and consume all of this information. But, you know, when we're trying to go to bed, when we're trying to be present with our friends and family, having that phone out can be really detrimental. It is a great tool, but sometimes it needs to go down, to be turned off, to, not answer that work call when you're out to dinner with friends. Having those boundaries is really important too. Scheduling in quiet time sometimes is necessary. It can be really tough to turn off and be like, I have 3 loads of laundry to do. I have the lawn to mow. I have, meal prepping to get done. But scheduling in that quiet time is just as important as doing those other tasks. So scheduling, like, nope, this is my time. This is in my schedule. This is how I am going to take care of myself in this moment. Um, and making that space and that availability for you to unplug and relax and participate in those hobbies that you enjoy, spending time with your loved ones. Allowing yourself to feel the full range of emotions is tricky, right? We don't want to, as humans, feel those negative emotions. It is painful, it is hard. You get bad news and you don't want to feel sad or angry or upset. We don't want to feel that anxiety or that fear. Uh, but allowing those emotions to come to completion, to fully pull through, to get to the point where they are resolved, where you go through that full cycle of them, right? Like a wave cresting and crashing. Uh, Allows those feelings to be processed and then to dissipate on their own. When we don't allow ourselves to feel those emotions, they get bottled up, they get pushed down, and then they just fester, they rot, and they cause even more stress. So allowing those emotions to come when you can, like, right? We're not always safe to feel those full ranges of emotion, right? Think about road rage. In the car is not the appropriate place to feel that anger because it can change our actions. But when we're home and in a safe space, maybe screaming into a pillow or punching a punching bag or, squeezing something really, really tight or even giving ourselves a self hug, just letting that tension come out in that safe space. So allowing those emotions to come out when you're safe to do so. And then noticing those even small moments where you have joy. So seeing, a butterfly in your garden or, walking past a street musician playing your favorite song. Just little things too. Putting weight into those things. It's really easy for us to notice the small inconveniences, right? Like somebody not going through a yellow light and when you both could have made it through that yellow light, or the coffee shop being out of the roast that you wanted. Those little things are easy to notice and to be dragged down by, but it if focusing on gratitude, exactly, yeah, finding those small little things that bring joy into you. So yeah, bringing in a different way of thinking. Um, so next on our list is going to be social self-care. So what comes to mind when you think about social self-care? What would that look like? This one can be a little tricky too. We don't always think about our socializing as a way of maintaining self-care. Yeah, surrounding myself with people who give me energy rather than drain it. Positive people. Yeah, time with my favorite people and pets. This is a good one about joy. It's better to go through the house of sorrow than the house of merriment is a good proverb. It says that you're saying learning to process disappointments. Yeah. Yeah, talking with good listeners, connecting and spending alone time when I need it, saying no to things I don't really want to do. Religious community, yeah. Talking with friends, hanging out with people who are not negative. Walk alone in nature sometimes, yeah. Planning golf dates, yeah. So yeah, making time for seeing friends and family, those who bring you joy. Setting boundaries with friends and family who are stressful, right? So avoiding those people who are causing pain in your life. It is totally okay to go low or no contact with people who are not bringing positive energy into your life, whether that's friends or family, and that can be really tough. Explore new activities and introduce yourself to new people. Cultivate your existing friendships, right? Making sure that you spend times like on those golf dates, doing those 5Ks, really working with those friends that you have and strengthening those relationships. Reaching out to people when you're struggling. This is one I see with my clients really have trouble with um, because of that concept of being a burden, right? We don't want to be a burden on other people. Um, but this is where I like to flip the script. If a friend or a family member was really struggling, if somebody was really hurting and needed your help, would you want them to stay silent or reach out to you so you could support them? And almost everyone I talk to says, "Of course I'd want them to reach out to me. I want them to lean on me. I want to be there for them." So flipping that script and giving yourself your own kindness, right? You're not a burden on your friends. They likely want to know if you're going through something so they can be there for you. So kind of shifting that mindset a little bit and treating yourself like you would treat a treasured friend. Um, you can participate in hobbies where you're able to interact with other people and start forming like new relationships, or again, like strengthening those old relationships, and inviting people to learn your hobbies, which can be really fun. Sharing things that you love with people, even if it's not their cup of tea. Most of the time, when you see someone um, expressing something with excitement and joy and intensity and just love, can, even if it's not an activity you enjoy, it could be a amazing rewarding experience for you. So even if you think someone might not be totally into your hobby, just invite them, see if they'd want to sit with you and learn that hobby, and just to see your joy. And if they don't, that's okay too. But that invitation is out there. That invitation on its own is strengthening that relationship. So social self-care is important. It has a lot of different facets and a lot of ways that we can kind of bring in those relationships and um, share parts of ourselves with other people. So next area of self-care would be professional and educational. So what do you think about when you think about professional and educational self-care? This one is kind of fun because it's kind of marrying our work lives with our outside lives and just making sure we're taking care of ourselves in all areas. Yeah, reading about my field, publishing papers, learning. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, what we're doing today. Yeah, right? Like in this space where we're talking to different people about different topics that, can be used in our professional lives. Um, Sharing my passion about work with others. Yeah. Seeking ways to find my gifts in my roles in my jobs, podcasts. Yeah. Yeah. Uh, so while we are bringing in that self-care aspect, right, that capacity into work, so some things from outside of work, we really want to leave work and school. So not, bringing home, too much work if we can avoid it. Not thinking about work when you're not on the clock. Be firm and clear with your boundaries. So if you work 9 to 5, that is when you're working, right? Don't answer work calls at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. Don't spend time, when you're on vacation worrying about what's going on at work. Learn when to be okay with saying no. If you are at capacity at work, right, you have every um, thing on your plate that you can handle, and someone tries to give you more, saying, "No, I'm sorry. I can't do this right now." Or asking, "Okay, where is this falling in my responsibilities? And what thing can I take off my plate to make room for this?" Maintaining distance from work and school gossip or drama, that can become really toxic, and a really dangerous environment, if you're getting too far into, oh, she said, he said, and all of that drama. Asking for help when you need it. If you don't understand a project, if you are feeling overwhelmed, knowing who your support systems are within that workplace and how you can approach them and elicit that help is so important. Use tools and skills to help you concentrate. A little bit later, we'll go on. We'll go into some different skills to use. but I have anxiety and I have fidget toys all around my workspace because that helps me concentrate. Having something in my hands to just play with. I've got like a foot rocker, a balance board underneath my feet right now that I can kind of tap to help me stay focused and stay in the now. So finding little tools that work for you, that help keep you focused, are really helpful as well. And keep your work and learning space tidy and personalized. When I was in office, when I was still full time at Tro's office, I had a light up keyboard. I had Star Wars figures all over my desk. I had crystals that Amy had given me. I had a light up Darth Vader that Brian had given me. Like just making that space my own and comfortable for me is so important. Like it made me feel so good. I miss you too, Tro. But it made me feel so good being in that space and getting ready to start my day because part of me was there. Um, so making that space your own is so, so important when you can as well. Okay. And the last area of self-care that we're going to hit is going to be spiritual and religious self-care. What does that look like for you guys? Like, how do you take care of yourself religiously and or spiritually? Like, what feels good there? This one can be tough. Yeah, read the Bible, go to church. Yeah, earlier I heard like, forming that church community, praying and meditating on the word meditation. Yeah, praying with my kids and wife. Yeah. So finding that space to access that spiritual side of ourselves, right? Being present, very important. Spending time reading the Bible, being in nature, yes, that can be an incredibly spiritual experience. Share your feelings with each other, yeah, to come in and bring that support together, definitely. So, yeah, participating in religious services, engage in holidays and observances, pray, meditate, follow your personal moral and ethical codes, right? That's a really important one. When we start to do things that might be against our moral code, when we feel, that we have to, that can really cause some dissonance and some distress within our system. Um, like, yeah, listing things I'm thankful for. Yeah, very important. Using our skills to support others. Yeah. Learn more about your spirituality when you can. So, reading the Bible or the Torah or the Quran, learning more about how your religion interacts with the greater world and connect with a community with similar beliefs. Um, so, there are a lot of ways that these overlap and connect with each other, right? So we've got our church community, which can also be social self-care. We have meditation, which can be part of our emotional self-care. So all of these things like are going to overlap and interlock and meld together. But don't feel like you have to hit every aspect of self-care all the time. There might be some aspects of these that you rarely hit, or that you might hit really hard at some points in your life, and then not so much other points. This isn't like a checklist of things that you have to do all of these things every day, all the time. These are just ideas to keep in your mind. So when you are feeling stressed, when you know that a stressful time is going to come, when you do, notice that chronic stress that we all have in our lives, these are just ways to build that resiliency, to touch into, to help add some spoons back into our capacity, right? To bring us back into that homeostasis, that balance. Um, so the last thing I want is for you to see this and be like, "Oh my goodness, how am I gonna get all this in?" We don't need that stress. These are things to de-stress. So just pick one and try to work on it, or pick two. If there's one that you're already doing, pick another one that you'd like to explore. Just kind of expand and grow, and do it at your own pace. There is no race for this. It is finding what's going to work and what's going to fit into your life. Because we're all busy, we all have so much going on. Okay. So, some exercises to try when the resiliency isn't there, when you are feeling overwhelmed, when those spoons are tapped out. So, these are exercises that I give to my clients to try, especially if you have something like chronic anxiety where there's fears that are coming up. These are ways to take you out of this headspace and put you into the now. So one of my favorites is a body scan, right? Real simple, real quick. Uh, when you're feeling that stress, when you're feeling overwhelmed, when things are going a mile a minute in your head, what's your body doing? Right? We did this a little earlier. What feels good? What needs to shift? Is there something that's uncomfortable? Like, do you need to roll your shoulders and loosen up a little bit? I know me, my shoulders go up around my ears when I'm stressed or nervous. Do you need to unclench your jaw and just open your mouth and let it move around? You know, are you thirsty? Do you need to use the restroom? Like, are there things calling within that digestive system that need to be approached? How did you sleep last night? Are you feeling tired? Just checking in on how that body is doing. Um, and then kind of seeing what can cause that comfort to come back, right? Like we did earlier today. Comfort is so important. What things are you noticing that are making you comfortable? Starting from a place of comfort and finding how to get back to that place of comfort can be a great place to start self-care. Um, so are there big steps that you need to take to become comfortable? Okay, if that's a big step, what are the smaller steps to get there? So, say, a big step is moving, right? Your space is too small, you need a bigger space. That's a big step. So, finding those smaller steps. So, first small step would be looking at your finances. Do you have the ability to move? Next small step might be where do you want to move to? Next small step, starting to look at, not heavy duty, but just being aware of like what spaces are available within your price range, right? So breaking it down to its component pieces, those smaller bits, and just finding what's going to be comfortable and what small spaces we can and small steps we can take to get into that comfortable space. So the body scan helps us start as close to home as we can get within ourselves. The next exercise is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and this one's really fun. Um, so, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed and those thoughts are racing, putting yourself in your environment. So, what are 5 things that you can see right now? So, just looking around your space and counting 5 different things that you can see. So now our brain is focused on what's around us rather than what's going on in our head. What are 4 things you can touch? And what do those textures feel like? Like, is the thing that you're touching smooth? Is it rough? Is it hot? Is it cold? So now we're using um, that sensation to focus on, to feel, right? Again, taking us out of this space and feeling with other parts of our body. It doesn't have to be your hands, too. It can be how does your shirt feel against your back? What do your socks feel like on your feet or the carpet or floor beneath your toes? What does that feel like? What are 3 things that you can hear now? So, are there birds chirping? Are there people talking? Is there music playing? So focusing on 3 things that you can hear, then 2 things that you can smell. So, do you smell your coffee? Is there a candle burning? Do you smell someone's perfume or cologne? And then one thing that you can taste. So that one could be a little difficult if you don't have like gum or something. So instead of one thing that you can taste, what's one nice thing you can say about yourself? One positive affirmation that you can give yourself in that moment, to really own that positivity and that um, coming out of that negative space into a positive. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste, or 1 nice thing you can say about yourself. Another one that's kind of similar to this is color counting. So picking a color when you're feeling overwhelmed and counting how many things in your space are that color. So looking around, like if you pick blue, like I see 5 things that are blue. Then green, I see 10 things that are green. Yellow, I see 3 things that are yellow. And as you start to come out of that stressed, anxious state, making it a game. I think orange is going to win. I see a lot of orange things around here, but there's also a lot of green things. Which one is going to win? And counting all of those things and just being in the space that you're in. So color counting can be fun. Square breathing is one of my favorite breathing exercises. I know, like when we were talking about signs of stress, like people were noticing a change in their breath, and in how that chest felt. So sometimes taking control of that breath can be very grounding and very supportive. Um, so with the breathing, square breathing, it's counts of 4, right? Because we're going to go the 4 sides of the square and we're going to count for 4. So it's breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4. And you can just continue that cycle until the breathing feels like it's under control. And by focusing on the body and on the counting at the same time, it can really quiet some of the noise that's going on up here. Um, I'm seeing in chat here, I feel like it allows me to take back control of my body, my breathing, my heart rate, slow the adrenaline. Yeah, closing your eyes too is a good one in that too, right? Um, yeah, just lets you focus on what is going on here and taking back that control. A lot of times stress can make us feel like we are losing that control. So really holding on to the things that we can control, right? Control our controllables. There's things outside our circle of control that we can't do anything about. Natural disasters, other people's actions and words. We don't control that, but we can control our breathing, and we can control our counting, and we can control some of what's going on in our bodies. That's kind of like in that somewhat control area. So focusing on those controllables. Yes, great suggestion. Applying ice packs helps decrease anxiety. Yeah, so you can do that like on the back of your neck, or even squeezing an ice cube in your hands. Ice baths. Yeah, so just like kind of helps bring you out of that headspace and puts you into that sensation. Um, Sour taste too, if you can bite into a lemon or a lime, that can shock you out of that brain space and put you in the present as well. So yeah, so just really um, focus on like those sensations and the things that you can control. The next thing is progressive muscle relaxation, which is a really fancy way of just saying tensing and relaxing your muscles. This is a great one for, especially if you're lying down in bed, and those thoughts are racing as you're trying to fall asleep. This is a good one for that space. Can be a little more difficult, to do if you're standing in line, like at the supermarket or driving or anything like that. Um, because what you're going to be doing is starting at your feet, clenching and holding for a count of 5 your toes, and then letting them go and just feeling every muscle as they relax. And then pointing your feet and tensing, those ankles and those calves and holding that for a count of 5. And then letting them all just kind of relax and feeling every muscle relax. And then going up to the thighs, the abs, the chest, the shoulders, down the arms, up into the neck, and then going backwards and just going through each of those muscles and feeling them each tense and that hold and what it feels like to hold, and then that relaxation and that ease that comes once we release those tense muscles. Um, Definitely stretching is really important too. Yeah. Stretching is great because, like, right, you're engaging all of those muscles. You're feeling into the body. You're feeling how that um, movement needs to happen to cause that ease, right? Because we're leaning into that tension, that slight discomfort maybe, and then going back into that comfort and that ease and noticing what shifts and changes there. So again, that takes you out of the head space and puts you into the body space, and gives you maybe just like that breath to notice that I'm here. I'm in a safe space. I don't have to feel this if I don't want to. I can control, like, my body, my breathing, my movements, my muscles. And then the leaves on the stream and visualization is more of a mental exercise, right? So staying in that headspace, but taking control of that mental space. So imagine that you're sitting alongside the bank of a stream, and there are leaves floating in that stream as it's flowing past you. And a thought comes into your mind. You acknowledge it, you give it its space, right? Because it deserves the respect that it deserves. That thought came from somewhere, but it's not welcome here right now. So let that thought come, acknowledge it, and then just let it sit on that leaf and flow down the stream. So it's going. It's You acknowledged it, you saw it, and now you don't have space for it, you don't need it, and letting it flow away. And it's possible that that thought comes back, and that's okay. Again, you just acknowledge it, you let it be there, and then you let it float away. Uh, and that can be with different visualizations too. Like when I'm feeling really anxious, I like to visualize a pane of glass in front of me, and my thoughts and my worries and my anxiety is on the other side of that glass, and it looks like a big tangled ball of string, and it's just there. And I can choose to reach through that glass and just take one of those strings and examine it and work with it. And then I can put it back or I can let it go. So, any visualization that helps you take control of that mental space is super important. So, these are just some exercises to try when you're feeling anxious or when that resiliency takes a hit, when that stress is becoming overwhelming. Um, so I wanted to say thank you for you all sitting here and listening to me ramble on about self-care and stress. This is my contact information if anybody would like to reach out. Um, if anybody has any questions, please throw them in the chat. I am happy to answer any questions that you have. Oh, thank you. I'm seeing some really kind messages in the chat, and I appreciate it.
Tori, this was fantastic. I cannot thank you enough for coming and educating all of us. And I was messaging Amy as this lecture was going on. I'm like, oh my God, this was amazing. This was awesome. Uh,
Oh, thank you.
for everybody who's listening in, I want to bring this back. If in the past 8 years, when we've analyzed our own data and looked at weight regain in our clinic, we use a lot of remote monitoring. And when we ask people who are experiencing an increase in water weight or an increase in weight, where their blood sugar is variable, when we ask them what's going on, 100% respond with the same exact answer, which is stress. Right. And so I think that I applaud you for focusing on stress, because I think it is the number one cause of weight regain that we see in our clinic. So I just I just wanted to get your opinion on, or your thoughts around that. What is it about stress in your mind that that leads people to turn to food?
Yeah, definitely. So stress is not something we can avoid, right? It is outside of our control. Just by existing, we are going to be in a state of stress, whether that's big or small. Um, and going back to those controllables, right? What is one of the easiest things to control? We saw it during the pandemic. People were right next to their fridges, and you can control going to that fridge and eating, right? That is something just innate and easy to control. So being able to recognize that stress and being able to step outside of it and say, okay, I do recognize I am stressed, but I do control my actions. So I'm going to choose not to do that. I'm going to use my tools and my strategies that I have, reach out to my friends, my stress relief, and lean into my self-care and my resiliency, so I don't have to do something that I don't want to do. And our gut is the largest producer of serotonin in the body, right? Like, so eating that comfort food, it's comfort food for a reason. It triggers that serotonin and makes our brain happy, which is something we desperately want when we're stressed. So yeah, so just leaning into those choices and controlling the controllables, um, which we have a lot of good tools and I think a lot of good lectures today that are going to help us kind of find ways to lean into that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give one more sort of comment question,
Yeah.
and if anybody else wants to ask a question, feel free to just type it in. I see some a lot of talk, a lot of chatter in the Q and in the comment section. Amy, if you see a Q&A, just let me know, and I'll pause and go to that. But there was a time where I think personally, just to talk on a personal note, that I discounted stress. Uh, you know, Prior to sort of going into medicine, I think maybe it's the way I was raised, or maybe it's sort of the way our society sort of uh, to my mind, it's the way we treat men, or I don't know. Maybe I should be careful of how I say that, but it could be just personal to me. Although I see in a lot of my male counterparts, they don't uh, they don't teach us to recognize and manage stress, right? It's not taught. Self-care is not really taught.
Yeah.
And when I went into medicine, I really discounted stress. And then all of a sudden, I'm learning in medicine, wait a second, there is literally an entity called stress-induced cardiomyopathy, where when somebody gets stressed out, it releases a ton of stress hormones, and it literally balloons the heart. It literally balloons the heart. It's called broken heart syndrome, Takotsubo's stress-induced cardiomyopathy. And when you look into the obesity medicine literature, as I sort of progressed in my career, you see that those stress hormones literally make people eat as if they're hungry without the self-perception of hunger, right? And those all those stress hormones like are attaching to receptors in the brain, and not removing our agency, but really making it difficult to sort of think at your optimum. So literally, these responses to stress affect every organ in the body. And at first glance, I thought to myself, like, if you asked me, and I'm ashamed to say this, but if you asked me 15 years ago to sit through a lecture like this, I would have rolled my eyes. And now I'm just like nodding my head, like, oh my gosh, like this is exactly what's needed. And certainly after the last, 8 years and or 10 years practicing medicine, all I can do is nod my head in agreement and say, this is the tool people need. These are the tools people need. So what are your thoughts around sort of those comments?
Yeah. So coming back to the gender disparity in mental health, right? Like I can see in my own practice, I would say 95% of my clients are female, because there is such a stigma around men's mental health. And those tools aren't being taught the same way to men as women. So yeah, this is applicable to everybody. Like stress is present for everyone. And acknowledging that stress and finding the tools to manage that stress is not a weakness, it's not a failing, it is a strength. So I'm happy that you brought that out because it is very, very um scary to see, right? The men's mental health, like the majority of suicides are men. Um, it is not something we talk about enough, and it's not something that we put enough emphasis on. Um, and if COVID did anything positive, it was bring mental health into the spotlight, and make it much more acceptable and accessible to so many. Um, you can find almost any therapist now is doing, you know, telehealth. Like that didn't happen before. So now you have access to every mental health practitioner in your state, which is amazing. So yeah, just really focusing on how to manage those stressors and what to do, um, is becoming more widely available, and that's just amazing.
I think even just the power of that stress, and I know you have to go and
Mhm.
we have to take a break, but just the physical power, to be able to, when I walked into that cardiac cath lab and I saw
Mhm.
a patient with completely clean arteries, nothing there, but under acute stress, the heart literally ballooned. I mean, when
Yeah.
I saw that, how can I deny the impact of stress? And I really opened my eyes to it. So I just want to thank you again, personally, professionally, for coming. I was texting Amy, all throughout your talk saying, "Oh my gosh, this is just fantastic." So just thank you so much for coming, and hopefully we'll get together soon and see each other soon.
Oh, definitely. And thank you so much for having me, and thank you all for, you know, waking up early on a Saturday morning to spend some time with me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys soon.